Hey guys, John Paulamy here, Actionable Intelligence. Today is Thursday, September 10th, and I wanted to make a short video about some articles I've been seeing and some Twitter activity around news that the Chinese are planning, at least in their next 5-year plan, are planning massive buying to build up their commodity reserve. And this was from an article, Bloomberg article. I will go through some of these and then give some commentary. It said China's next 5-year plan beginning in 2021 will call for increases to its mammoth state reserves of crude, strategic metals, and farm goods. Securing food supplies, fuel, and materials is a precondition of greater self-reliance for the world's biggest importer of commodities. Assuaging China's anxieties over energy and food security in particular will be a focus of the new buying program, officials said. And then later on in the article, it's Bloomberg News reported in April that the government had set a target of holding oil stockpiles equivalent to 90 days of net imports, which could eventually be expanded to as much as 180 days when including commercial reserves. It's another article I just read too, and I started researching. They plan on going out and increasing their cobalt reserves. Okay, why are they doing this and what does it mean? I suspect they're doing this for several reasons. After the COVID situation hit, supply chains were wrecked, flows of raw materials were interrupted. You couple that with the continuing increases in rhetoric from the U.S. towards China, Chinese expansionism, territorial expansionism, that they are slowly but surely creeping out, building their navy up. I think that several things could be happening over the next few years, right? You could get into a conflict with the United States. I mean, when the two biggest guys on the block, I mean, they're eventually going to fight, right? And the U.S. is waning as a global power. China seems to be on the upswing. And they don't, I'm not sure they have the same views that some of our other adversaries have had in the past, i.e. Soviet Russia. So, you know, they have this huge population. They are trying to maintain growth. They have a compact with the Chinese people that the Chinese Communist Party stays in power. It's basically a fascistic oligarchy of apparatchiks at the top that control everything. But the deal is that we provide economic growth and your life gets better, but you don't, we're not going to have democracy and all these, Jeffersonian democracy here. And they have to provide. And you've had recent situations, like I said, with COVID, with the floods that they've had in China that have really destroyed a lot of the crops for this year. The previous Asian flu, hog flu that they had that wiped out a big proportion of the pork supply in China. And then, like I think, this continuing rhetoric and upping of rhetoric. So the Chinese are looking at this as probably saying, okay, wait a minute. We have to think long term here. We cannot be in a situation where one or two 50-year or 100-year events put us in peril of losing power because we can't feed our people or we can't maintain economic growth. We can't provide raw materials to keep our manufacturing machine going. The other thing that you need to keep in mind is, and a lot of people don't think about this, especially people from the West, there's been many, it's built into the Chinese psyche, starvation. They've went through many episodes of times in their history where there has not been enough food in the country. And that's why they eat all these wild things. They've become delicacies nowadays, but that's why they eat all these different types of animals and insects and everything, because that's what they were forced to do throughout their history. They've had constant issues with famines in the country, some self-imposed during the Cultural Revolution, the Great Leap Forward by Mao, collectivization of agriculture, all this kind of nonsense. So they have a built-in psyche, okay? It's, you cannot look at these things or why other people do things just based on your own frame of reference. You have to look at you have to put yourself in their shoes, okay? Am I excusing what the Chinese do? No, it's not a very nice regime, but most governments aren't nice. But as far as what we care about here is if they go on this buying spree over the next 4 or 5 years, in concert with the fact of the underinvestment that's happening in commodities, in concert with the massive money printing around the world, this could be, the reason I'm making this video is because I'm trying to point out this could be another tailwind, more wind in our sails. So it's something to keep an eye on. It's something to try to understand and follow. And let's not forget, China isn't the only country in the world that has this massive desire to increase its standard of living for its people. India and Indonesia and the Philippines, and I can just go down the list, all of Africa. I mean, so I think that this is just another in many details that I think need to be paid attention to. Is it actionable right now? No, but I mean, if they're going to, increase the supply, increase the demand for commodities so they can build up these strategic reserves, that means something considering China is the largest consumer of commodities in the world. And regardless of all of the things that have been going on, the rhetoric back and forth, there's been quite a bit of corn and soybean exports from the U.S. to China. Another country that I follow just because I have ties to it, Ukraine. I mean, China is one of its biggest trading partners now. It's mostly ag products. They've been selling a lot of corn and a lot of other agricultural products to China. One of the first trains that goes from China to Europe, we have this, it stops in Kiev, and they've had a lot of trade increasing. And people don't pay attention to these things, okay? And these things are incremental, and they help build the case, I think, for a longer term, what I can think is going to be a 5 to 10 year upcycle in commodities and resources. So this is just something I wanted to point out. It's something to keep an eye on. I lost the article link, but I did. This is a Bloomberg article, or that was published on Yahoo Finance today. And like I said, I think it's important because they have a history. They know of famine and starvation, and they can't have a repeat of that. That would undermine the legitimacy of the government and destroy the compact that the Chinese Communist Party has with the Chinese people. So something to keep an eye on. I thought it was important to talk about, and it's just like I said, things are lining up, I think, for what appears to be a reversal in the decade-long bear market in resources. Okay, guys, that's it for this video. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks.